Hello, and welcome to the Pet Healer Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Mitzi Vargas, and today we are talking about compassion fatigue versus burnout. And the reason this topic is super important to me is because in our profession, we are going through an epidemic of depression, anxiety, and sadly, suicide. We, as a veterinarian, it has a way higher probability of ending up committing suicide than the general population. And to me, especially as a Christian, this is totally unacceptable. But as colleagues, nobody wants to hear about colleagues, losing their lives because they could not get a hold of depression. And a lot of the times, depression is a byproduct of compassion fatigue or burnout. Well, what's the difference about burnout? Burnout can happen in basically any occupation. And is this psychological term that refers to the person when they are depersonalized. They're exhausted, they have a lack of motivation, a lack of interest in even working or having anything to do with work. Whereas compassion fatigue is called vicarious trauma because it's more about empathy. It is about the negative emotions that we feel from helping people at our offices. And the reason is because veterinarians are in this situation where we can't help all the pets. And sometimes we see that these problems are 100% avoidable and that people choose not to. In some cases, when it's ignorance, I feel like I can deal a little bit better with it. Like, oh, they didn't know that not spaying the dog was something that could end in pyometra, which is a life or death situation. Okay, well, this is lack of ignorance or lack of education. That can be fixed, but sometimes it's apathy. People are like, well, I'm not going to spend the money on spaying the dog. Oh, it's a dog that is outside. Beautiful, wonderful, sentient beings. And as veterinarians, we just get this anger, with this resentment towards people that do not take care of their pets. Because we place such a big value on having a companion. And so it's very hard when day after day, you see people opting for doing euthanasia instead of treatment. And sometimes you understand that they may not have the funds, but people have the funds. They're traveling and they just decide to euthanize their pet because convenience, really. And so I just want to just bring this about and discuss this. And please, vets that are listening to me, feel free to contact me and talk about your stories and the ways that you've coped with it. The burnout, I have a big solution for all veterinarians with burnout. Learn something new. It happened to me. I was really getting to the point. I'd never experienced full burnout, but I started to feel less interested in things about 15 years after I graduated. I had my own practice. I was main practitioner. I was working hell of a lot hours. And so I was just really tired. I was exhausted. And I was just like, is this what it is? All this profession is 30 more years of doing this, the same, checking the ears, anal glands, vaccines, And so I was really lacking interest because there's something that I heard somewhere that after you work 10 years into any field, it's the equivalent of a master degree, 10 years in your field. But at 15, it hit me. I started to lose interest. And I went to some special learning seminars, and I learned some techniques, and that kind of gave me some little extra motivation. But what saved me was TCVM. I discovered a whole new world, TCVM, traditional Chinese veterinary medicine, and I loved it. And I took to it like fish in water, and I never looked back. And I love it, and I love going to work every day. And the funny thing is, I recover my zest for the Western medicine because it does have a place, but it just infinitely more interesting to do integrated medicine than it is to do plain Western medicine or plain TCBM. So I found my niche 15 years after I graduate. I really got like a second life, a second uh, choice, of career, really. And so compassion fatigue is the empathy that we have, that we feel as practitioners. We start reflecting all of these negative emotions, and this could definitely end in depression. So some of the symptoms of compassion fatigue, because it's emotional pain. I mean, you feel that pain. You feel when the pets are dying. You feel that the pets suffer in the hands of people that are unconscious. And so all healthcare professionals suffer. I mean, nurses suffer from compassion fatigue. My cousin Betty is a nurse, and she has over 30 years of experience, and she suffers some of compassion fatigue, and she had to leave the field, and then she was out for a while, and then she went back again, but this time doing home care, and she's super happy. So she switched a little bit, and then she got better situation, being a nurse practitioner going to houses. So veterinarians have that option to become a relief veterinarian, to go into health, public health, or other areas. To just, I known several people that after being many years in general practice, they go into a residency or internship, and they learn something completely new, and a new field, and that is a very good cure for burnout. But for compassion fatigue, sometimes you have to leave the field completely. Now, burnout is longer time for it to heal, but in my opinion, it's easier because you decrease the load, you change the interest, and that's it. Compassion fatigue, you can never forget the trauma that you've gone through when you've been, there watching an animal suffer. So to me, compassion fatigue, even though it's easier to get over because you can use medication to help you get over, or that's the psychological care that you need. You need some medication, probably a mood stabilizer to help you sometimes. But the warnings, there's a lot of feelings of powerlessness, or feeling that you can't do anything, because you see the in and out euthanasias increase right before Christmas and right after Christmas. And it's just so tiring. The month of December and January for veterinarians is just really tough because of euthanasias, most of them for convenience. But this sensitivity is a hypersensitivity. We're overwhelmed with things because we're just so exhausted by the demands of the work, not just physical, but and that has a part in it, but mental demands of being veterinarian. And then it comes a point that you feel numb, and that is the dangerous, really dangerous. Your shen is so depleted, your spirit is so depleted that you start to not care. And that is a warning sign to leave, to take some time off, to really work on your self-care. So what are the coping things that we can do? Mindfulness. When you're doing something, don't do robot style. Just really get into it. I have a technique. I go in between some appointments that are charged emotionally, and I go to the bathroom, I wash my hands, and I visualize my hands, the soap and the water going down the drain, and I visualize the problems going away with it, the bad vibes or whatever I think going away with it. Eating healthy. I am vegan, and I credit the plant-based diet from like saving my life, because Lord knows that the way I was eating before I became vegan 13 years ago, it was definitely not conducive for a long life, because I just like too much of fried um, foods and nitrate filled, you know, foods. So I definitely know that that really helped. Taking time away to me is precious, and it doesn't have to cost you anything. It could be saying, well, listen, I'm just going to take 2 hour lunches, or I'm just going to, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to take a 2 week personal time, or I'm going to manage the days. I only work 32 hours. I'll only work 4 days a week. You can't go to management if you're an associate or if you're a practitioner. It's your place. You can set the rules. Take care of yourself. This is my advice. If you're a veterinarian that is listening to me, let's take care of ourselves, because you cannot give from an empty cup. And that's what happens to veterinarians. We care so much, and sometimes we care so little for ourselves. And this here is so important. Your Shen is depleted. Your energy, your postnatal Jing, the ability to repair your cells, the ability to heal is compromised. You need to eat good. You need to get good Gucci energy from the food just to replenish that postnatal Jing. The Jing can be exhausted. If the Jing is exhausted, you're shortening your life. This was observed thousands of years ago from Chinese practitioners, and it still rings true to today. So I want all of us to live long and prosper. So please take care of yourself. Examine yourself. Have you lost interest in what you do? Are you dreading getting up and going to work? If that is happening to you, you might be feeling burnout or compassion fatigue. And we need to know which one of the two it is, because there are different approaches of healing from those psychological burdens. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you share it with your friends.